very much. Good morning, and thank you all for coming out on this dreary Wednesday here in Dover, but a day also of great celebration for our state. We're here really this morning for two reasons. One, to recognize a momentous date in our state's history, and second, to recognize an individual who has contributed greatly to the study of that history through her teaching and through her writings. We're very, very lucky to have a beautiful archives building, a beautiful and very efficient archives building, and a very expensive one too, I might add, for today's ceremony. And I want to thank in particular the archive staff and Steve Mars. Steve?
I'm sure.
Yeah, he's over there. Much better looking than that guy, by the way, who got confused with you in the newspaper today. Much better looking. Much better looking. And I also want to recognize both Rick Eisenberger and James Collins, the two deputy secretaries of state, as well as I know Greg Hughes is here and Annie Norman. Greg, the director of GIC, Annie, the director of Division of Libraries, and of course Tim Slavin in front of me here, who's the director of the Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs. His predecessor, Russ McCabe, who's kissing Robin Brown right now, and whatever. And
Thank you, Robin.
And Representative Earl Jakes joins us from the state legislature. Thank you, Representative Jakes, for being here tonight, and Mr. Kenton too. Thank you very much for being here as well. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to read Steve's op-ed this morning, but I thought it was very, very well done for one very important reason. On this day, we tend to focus on December 7th as the day, Delaware became the first state that 30 men up the street decided that we would ratify the U.S. Constitution and be the first state to do so. And we celebrate as well that document, which is, of course, a great document and the foundation for much of what we have as a country. But Steve focused, I thought, very appropriately, more on the people that came together 224 years to do that. Those 30 men from a wide variety of different occupations and backgrounds who came to Dover probably not knowing quite what they were doing and risking a great deal at the same time. And through their deliberations, they found a courage to agree on a new constitution. And Steve made the comparisons of 224 years ago to today and what's going on in our own country, in particular in Washington, and I think very appropriate. But as we think about our own state, as we think about Delaware, and I can't speak as Professor Hoffecker can about the vast history of Delaware, but as I think of the 25 years, sadly, that I've been part of government and public policy in our state, I can trace that thread from 224 years ago very much to the present, and to men and women who also had the courage and have had the courage to agree over the years. And whether it's been a Republican governor like Mike Castle or a Democrat governor like Tom Carper, more often than not, our governors have led the way and have showed the leadership and have taken the risks and have built consensus around them in finding a path forward for our state. So we do very much have in common what those original 30 did 224 years ago. Our current governor, Jack Markell, who we're very happy to have with us today, I think has continued in that tradition. He also has come to the office of governor in a very difficult time, just as they did 224 years ago when they met up the street, and has had to take a lot of risks and has had to find a way to build consensus in doing the right thing and moving the state forward. And again, I'm not the expert that Professor Hoffecker is, but I have a little bit of authority, at least on the last couple decades. And I've been in the room many, many times when we've had those bone-crushing debates, when we've had strong disagreement, when we've frankly had people that didn't even like each other. But through it all, in Delaware, we figured it out, and we found a way to move our state forward. The governor gets credit for a lot of things. He's a guy who's very smart, he's business savvy, he's got great contacts across the country. He's a caring and compassionate person at the same time who is always looking for ways, including as we're putting the budget together right now, looking for ways to help people who are less fortunate in our state. But I think the true measure of the success of the administration, of the Markell administration, will be those qualities, but also will be how this governor has been able to lead us through the difficult times, taking significant risk, finding the consensus, finding the men and women around him, both elected and appointed, that had that courage to agree. Governor, we're very happy to have you with us, and thank you for coming today.
Well, thanks. Great to be with all of you. I want to thank Secretary Bullock, who is doing a great job as Secretary of State. It's a really interesting responsibility. On the one hand, he's got responsibility for generating a whole lot of revenue for the state through the Division of Corporation, and he does a terrific job with that. He's got the Veterans Home, a really sacred responsibility that he treats in the sacred manner that it deserves. He's got the libraries and the arts, and he's got the archives and a number of other things as well, historic and cultural affairs. And I love being with him here. I like being with him lots of places, although I did think it was interesting that when he got to the part of the introduction when he said, sometimes people don't even like each other, and he looked at me directly. But I wasn't, I think that was just an aside. I don't really, but I do love doing events here. And since I'm governor, I've been governor about 3 years now, and this is probably maybe the 5th or 6th time we've been here for a variety of events. And this is a great one. This is such a big day for us. And with all due respect, and I was talking to Representative Jakes and Representative Kenton earlier, both of whom served their country in the armed forces with great distinction. And around the country, around the world, of course, this day is known as Pearl Harbor Day, and a day that we'll never forget, and a day that does in fact live in infamy for all the reasons that President Roosevelt suggested. Here in Delaware, this is an important day, and it's a day for us to celebrate. And we are so fortunate to have this particular building to celebrate in. And I don't know, was this built under Governor Carper? Started under Carper. This place is amazing, and I think, I'm glad it got done then, because given the economic conditions that we face right now, it would have been very difficult to do a project like this now. But I do think that when you think about this place and what it houses, and you think about where we're trying to go as a state, there are some who make the mistake of saying that this is a building only about the past. And it's not only about the past. In fact, it's very much about the future. Because if you believe, as I do, that if you don't understand history, you are condemning yourselves to make the same mistakes that were made in history, this is a really important place for all of us. And the fact that it is so inviting, and the fact that all of us like coming here because it's just the kind of place physically that makes you feel good, and it is housed by people. The people who work here are the kind of people who make you feel welcome. I think that's really, really important. And so I think to have this opportunity to celebrate a Delaware Day and to celebrate Professor Hoffecker in this particular venue, it all comes together in a really positive way. So, I had not realized that the actual minutes from the ratification convention are actually lost to history. But the Delaware display, which is up here, does reveal, as the Secretary of State was mentioning, sort of the troubling economic times, in some senses similar to those we have now, but it includes a letter from a group of Sussex Countyans to the Delaware General Assembly in 1787 requesting relief from their debt problems. So I think it's really interesting. Also included in the display is a letter from Newcastle residents in the fall of 1787 asking for the General Assembly to quickly approve the new Constitution. We can also see the portraits of 4 out of the 5 Delaware signers of the Constitution. We've never found one, and that is a portrait of Broome. We've never found a portrait of Broome. The others, which I don't have in my notes, Russ, what's that?
Dickinson?
Was Dick, all right, so we went, and we just went to the Dickinson plantation, and the other 3,
Might have been a Bedford in there?
Bedford and Gassett, Reed, and Gassett, right? Bassett, exactly. There you go. I knew this was just trying to invite audience participation, and I would not say I'd give you an A+ for that, honestly. So there are some other very interesting items on display. A sample of the type of paper money that was controversial at the time. Why was it so controversial at the time?
Worthless.
Well, that's a good reason for it to be controversial. Okay. There's a receipt for the use of the tavern room, the firewood, and the candles, which I think would be very cool to look at. A receipt for John White. He served as the clerk for the convention. He was reimbursed for purchasing the parchment and the paper, for writing 2 copies of the ratification document, and for transcribing the vote and the proceedings of the convention, which I think is very interesting and great we still have it. George Reed's copy of the Constitution. It is one of only 7 copies of the first official imprint that still survives to this day. Pretty amazing. We've got it right here. There's an image of the ratification document that's part of the display, but take the time to go into the charter room while you're here and view the original. It's the documentary proof that Delaware truly is the first state. The fact that it says it on the license plate is not actually the proof. And so it's actually, as a result, it's one of the most important historical documents that is preserved here at the archives. So in the end, one of the reasons I love this place is because we have so many kids who come here, and our Delaware history is not only evident to them, but this place really brings it alive. And so I really encourage everybody to take a look at that. I also want to say from here, in about maybe 35 minutes or so, we're doing a different event, which is launching the Delaware History Trail, which is such a great idea. We're going to be unveiling, I think it's 12 places in each of the 3 counties that people ought to check out. I did a little bit of it this summer with my kids and with some other visitors I had, and we went to some of the places that Tim Slavin has responsibility for. But what a great idea, really providing a roadmap for people who are interested in Delaware history. I think it'll be great for tourism. I think we're doing that event, I think, at the old State House. So if you can make that, please come there. So Delaware Day has actually been recognized since 1933 with a proclamation from the governor. And it just so happens that I have one of those proclamations right here. I'm not going to read well, actually, maybe I should read it. I normally don't, but this is important enough. Whereas our form of government was established by a federal constitution adopted in Philadelphia on September 17, 1787, subsequently submitted to the 13 states for individual action. 224 years ago, December 7th, today, 1787, a special convention of 30 delegates representing Delaware's 3 counties met in Dover. By its unanimous action in adopting the new federal constitution, became the first state in the Union. Whereas this was an event of great significance not only for Delaware but for the nation as well. Whereas in the intervening years, the U.S. Constitution has served as a beacon for the hopeless and as an inspiration to all who seek freedom and justice. And whereas in 1933, more than 6,000 Delawareans signed petitions in requesting the formal establishment of the 7th day of December as Delaware Day, and whereas we set aside this one day annually to reflect on the meaning of the U.S. Constitution and rededicate ourselves to its preservation, and whereas it is fitting that all Delawareans on this day recall their proud heritage and blessings of citizenship in this country and state. Matt Den has already signed it. I'm about to, declaring December 7th, 2011 Delaware Day in the first state, and we request the flags of Delaware and the United States be properly displayed from all buildings on that day. So with that, I sign it as well. And I just, this is like just such a great thing. And I think those folks back in 1933 who had the vision to sign that petition, to make this happen, so that we all take the time every single year to remember that which makes us so special. Stephen, I'll give that to you. Thank you.
Governor.
Thank you very much. And, you know, the important thing for us is being the first state has got to mean something, not just in an historical document, not just in a license plate, but we've really got to be focused every day, all of us who serve in government and everybody else as well, you know, how to truly make ourselves first in things, not just in history, but in things that really make a difference to all people in our state. So first of all, thanks to all the staff here for making this possible, and let's hear it for Delaware Day. Now, what could be better than on Delaware Day to take the opportunity to recognize somebody who has meant so much for our state? And the Governor's Heritage Award, which was established in 2003, recognizes people who have made significant contributions to the recognition, preservation, and celebration of Delaware's heritage. And we have a lot of people some great people we have honored, a number of people that we should honor, and we are so fortunate to have one of those people today. And I think what could be better than actually presenting this award than on Delaware Day itself. So today, I've got the pleasure of announcing to all of you that the newest recipient of the Governor's Heritage Award is Dr. Carol Hoffecker, who is the Richards Professor and Allison Professor Emerita of the University of Delaware. Now, Dr. Hoffecker, as you all know, and as any school child in Delaware knows, because we read her book, is one of the most eminent of Delaware historians. She is a native of Delaware. All right, so those of you who are so smart about knowing the 5 signers, do you know where she went to high school?
Mount Pleasant.
Thank you, very good. But Russ, you didn't seem to know, and I can't tell you how much joy I take in the fact that you didn't know that. She was former chair of the history of the department at the University of Delaware. Her scholarship has brought us a number of publications on various aspects of our history. She has dedicated decades of her excellent service in the classroom directly. She is a bachelor BA from the University of Delaware. She has a master's from Radcliffe and a PhD from Harvard. Her first teaching post was at Sweetbriar College in Virginia. Then she moved on to Northeastern University. Am I right so far? Okay, that's good. Okay, good. She returned to Delaware as a junior resident scholar at the Hagley. She began work there on history of Delaware. In 1970, she became coordinator of the Hagley Graduate Program, taught courses on Delaware history and on urban history, and shortly thereafter, she became a full-time faculty member. In 1974, she wrote her first book, Wilmington, Delaware, Portrait of an Industrial City, looking from 1830 to 1900, and this was followed by 2 more books about Wilmington history. She wrote Delaware, a Bicentennial History as part of a National Endowment for the Humanities project to produce histories of each state, written from the personal perspective of Native writers. She also wrote Federal Justice in the First State, a history of the judges and the significant cases that have come before the federal court here. Other books include Delaware, the First State. That is not only is that for school-aged children, it was the first book I read after being elected governor, but before being sworn in. I literally took it with me on my week off after being elected, and as I was starting to think about putting together my administration, and I read it again then. And that has been used in classrooms and in governor's mansions through the state. She's written many more books and articles on Delaware history, including History of the General Assembly, History of Women at the University of Delaware, 4 Generations of Jewish Life in Wilmington, Church Gothic, a case study of revival architecture in Wilmington, The Politics of Exclusion, Blacks in Late 19th Century Wilmington, Delaware, and Honest John Williams, who, of course, the conscience of the Senate, the U.S. Senator from Delaware. She was inducted to the Hall of Fame of Delaware Women in 1993, and she received the University of Delaware Medal of Distinction in 1998. That is an incredible record. That is an incredible record. And not only that, she's just a wonderful person. And she really is. And she is always willing to provide her expertise in a, sort of in an understandable way. And I literally read that book that was written for fourth graders. Sometimes that's where my mind is. But I wanted something that I could grasp onto and that would make it really understandable. And it's exactly what Professor Hoffecker did with that book and throughout her career. And so with that, I am delighted to have the opportunity to present this ball and to ask Dr. Hoffecker to say a few words. Why don't we come out in front of the podium?
It's always dangerous to give the microphone to a former professor because they're used to talking for 50 minutes. It's just ingrained into you. But I will try to keep my remarks much shorter than that. I want to thank the governor and the Secretary of State and all of you for this award. I am extremely pleased to receive it, and it's the culmination of my career, I think. Indeed, that is literally true. What can I say on Delaware Day? One of the things is that we are very, very fortunate in this state that it is not only small, but that we get along together so well. As the governor says, we don't always like one another, but the politicians of this state and the people of this state know that they have no choice but to get along together because it's small. If you just looked at a map of the United States and you were, say, from, I don't know, Serbia or somewhere, you would wonder why this little sliver of land stuck on a peninsula is a state at all, wouldn't you? I mean, it would just seem strange. And to understand that, you really do have to know something about the history, the early history of this state. Another thing that would be strange to you, maybe, would be that for such a small place, from the very beginning, it was so diverse. People from a variety of religious backgrounds and of places came to this little place. You would also sort of wonder how its economy evolved. How can you have a diverse economy in such a small area? How can you have a political system that will work? Well, to understand all these things, you really do have to look at the history of Delaware, not just in the colonial period, but also in more recent times. How we have been very fortunate in being able to get together. We're fortunate in many, many ways. Why was Delaware the first state? Well, there are several reasons that leap to mind. But one of the first is that when we declared independence, we weren't just declaring independence from England. We were declaring independence from Pennsylvania. Okay? And you'll remember that Penn, had already had a big battle with Calvert of Maryland, or there wouldn't be any Delaware as something that Penn even controlled. So we were already the recipients of a series of historical events at the time that we ran down from Philadelphia to Dover and said, let's be first to do this because this is really good for us, because it's going to make sure that we really are a state and that Pennsylvania and these other states can't jump all over us. Ho, ho, ho. And lo, they haven't. And lo, we have 2 United States senators just like those big guys. And we have been very proud of all that they have been able to do, and all that our political group has been able to do in bringing us together and keeping us going, and this governor in particular in difficult economic times. So I am very, very pleased and proud to accept this honor, and I thank the governor and I thank all of you for being here today. So long.